Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans, by fans, and all of our content is free. My name's Craig Gray, hosting today on Sunday, the 31st of March 2024, after Rangers' 3-1 victory over Hibs yesterday in the Scottish Premiership. Just before I introduce today's guests, I'd like to give a message from our sponsors firstly, Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company. They've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years, and we're absolutely delighted they're backing our pod. You can get them over at forestprecisioneng.com. And you can also visit the Forest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Now I've got that out of the way, time to introduce my guest. First up, Mr. Dougie Kinnear. Dougie, it's Easter Sunday. How's your Easter Sunday going?
Good evening. Yes, it's been good. The little ones got their Easter egg hunt this morning, so they've been happy. And to be honest, it's actually a temptation right now because I am sitting in the dining table surrounded in Easter eggs. So if you see me at some point just kind of munching into some chocolate, I can be excused.
No, you definitely can be excused. I've actually not had any Easter eggs today, and I'm actually getting raging about it now, to be quite honest. So thanks for rubbing it in, mate. Also joining us this evening, Mr. Ross Bennett. Ross, same question to yourself. How are you doing? How's your Easter going?
Yeah, very good, very good. I don't have any little ones, so I've done the Easter egg hunt myself, which was great. No, I know, very good. I was up at Ibrox yesterday.
Good. Thoroughly
enjoyed that. So I had a good weekend.
It was a good weekend. Dougie, I'll start with you. Obviously, 3-1 win over Hibs yesterday. Really, first things first, it was just great to be back at Ibrox. The real stuff began again yesterday. I absolutely hate international breaks, and I'm sorry to all the international football anoraks out there, but I just don't like international breaks. And international breaks, but it's just friendlies that you're playing as well. You're like, oh, please just get me back to the real stuff. But I honestly thought yesterday it was quite comfortable. Saying earlier it was 3-1, but it could have been 5 or 6, to be quite honest. I thought it was a dominant performance, and quite frankly the best way to come back after that international break all refreshed.
Huge win, Craig, absolutely huge win. Important to get us back up and running again after the international break. I agree with you in terms of I just love going to Ibrox, especially on a nice sunny day as it was yesterday. I'm glad I took my sunglasses. But I just think this international break was perfectly timed for us. It gave us a good opportunity for a lot of players to rest up. I think we had a lot of tired legs before the international break. A lot of key players have played a lot of football, and hopefully they all had good breaks and didn't all join James Tavernier and the dentist getting their teeth pulled. But really key time for us, and I think that was kind of shown in the team. We had guys like Cantwell now back, fully fit in the starting 11. The bench was the strongest it's been in a number of months. I must admit, I went to Ibrox with a spring in my step, thinking this is going to be a good day when I seen Scott Wright in that starting 11. But no, a huge win. Do you know? We were just talking there about enjoying the game, and Frank had said he enjoyed the game. Ross said he enjoyed the game. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a game at Ibrox right now, and I think it's because I'm so tense. I went on my birthday. I think it was a Ross County game on my birthday, and we beat them, but that was a game that we had to score another goal to go top of the league, and we won by like 3 or 4 goals. And I didn't enjoy it because I'm too busy focused on let's get the goals, let's just get the win, as it was yesterday. And I kind of feel that I only enjoy it after the full time whistle goes and you've got the 3 points. So I felt yesterday strangely tense, but it was never in doubt. You know, I know that Hibs obviously got the equaliser against the run of play. We were up the park almost immediately and scored straight away. It just felt yesterday that we took that game very routine yesterday, which I liked. I could have done with a wee bit more pace from a number of players, a wee bit more momentum in the game. But it was a huge game, but it just felt routine for us, which I quite like. But that third goal from Rabbi Matondo, I've got to say, was huge. That was the one that really settled my nerves. And I think you probably seen it inside the stadium between the kind of 70th to 75th minute that the fans were starting to kind of realise that the game was was there for the taking. You know, whilst Hibs were not in it, it was only one goal in it. We had to get the 3 points. And at that point, that's when the crowd really started to get behind the players and the songs started. And I think it gave the players a lift. So I think that the support yesterday gave them that lift. And I'm delighted for Rabbi Matondo and delighted for us as a support to get that third goal and put the game to bed.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, you mentioned Scott right there, Dougie. I mean, we will come on to things chronologically, but I just thought I'd mention, like, I think yesterday kind of encapsulated his entire Rangers career in a nutshell. You know, obviously, Tab misses a penalty. It goes out to Scott Wright. He scores the goal. He was away celebrating. First things first, the announcer says it's James Tavernier that scored. So I'm Scott Wright. I'm thinking, I'm pure buzzing for this first goal that I've scored at Ibrox for... Can't remember the last time we scored at Ibrox, to be fair. And then Tab's getting the credits and he's just missed a penalty. And then for it to be ruled out like a minute later as well, you're like, I felt really bad for him, to be honest. And I think that just kind of summed up his Rangers career well. But I mean, Ross, Dougie mentioned it there, like nerves, but also, you know, pretty routine. I think for me, yeah, I do get kind of nervous going into these games, but even when Hibs did equalise, I was never really panicking. I always felt that we were going to get more chances, we were going to score, we were going to get that second, and then eventually the third. And it's just, I think calmness might be the word to use in terms of this Rangers team under Clement, where I'm not worried. I'm quite, well, not comfortable being in a position where we're drawing a game, but I'm not worried. You know, I'm still positive. We're going to get another goal. And, you know, I think Dougie was spot on in terms of its mentality as well. You know, as soon as you concede that goal, you go right up the pitch and score. So I think for me, Ross, I think calmness is the word that probably personifies us from one side.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a calmness we'd have had under Michael Beale. Yeah. I think it does come from the manager, and you hear the manager a lot of the time in his post-match comments saying things like, I was pleased about how we dominated the game, I was pleased about the chances we created. I've noticed he always talks about the goals that we scored that were then chalked off. So he said, look, we scored a very good goal from Tavernier, but we also had the goal from the penalty, which if Scott Wright had cut his toenails, it wouldn't have been chalked off. So I think the manager gets his point across the players really, really well, that, guys, you're creating chances. So it's okay. You will keep creating. You will keep scoring. So I was the same as you guys. That the goal went in. I was really pissed off with the goal because it was a stupid crap goal to concede again. And it's not the first time this season. It's not the first time under Clement. It's certainly not the first time with our back four. So I was pissed off with the goal, but that was more about the nature of the goal. But the fact that was, certainly at that time, and it might have been in the whole game, that was their only shot on target at that point. They were creating nothing. And I know we're here to talk about Rangers, and I agree that I don't think it was our best performance yesterday. And I definitely think, regardless of what Clement says, he definitely had an eye on the old firm, I think, with the team selection that he had. So I don't think it was our best performance, and we're here to talk about Rangers, but Hibs were poor. Hibs were poor. That was the only chance they created. With a bit more competent defending, it never should have, if Tavernier's positioning was better, if Goldson's challenge was better, if Lundstrom hadn't lost his man early on, it wouldn't have been a goal. So I'm the same. I knew we were creating chances. I knew that they were weak. The Hibs have had huge amount of recruitments come in January, so they're not a settled team. But we've beaten them a couple of times already this season. I think our unbeaten record against Hibs extends to something like 22 games in the league now, 24, something like that. So, I don't know. I'm not saying. Do you remember back in the season that we won 55, particularly that first sort of 15 games? You were confident going into every single game. You knew we were getting a win. I'm not at that level. I'm certainly not at that level, and certainly not after Motherwell a few weeks ago. But I wasn't too worried. And I think we've all said the same thing, and we were all proved right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the thing as well. Like, I thought Hibs were poor yesterday, which was a bit of a surprise to me, because I think Hibs certainly going forward have got, pretty decent talent there. And weirdly, it probably was Hibs' worst performance against us this season, but it's also the closest that they've probably came to getting something against us, which just kind of shows how weird and wacky footballers, really. But yeah, I just think Cameras personifies this team at the moment. Dougie, before we go into the actual game, just want to speak about the starting lineup. You obviously mentioned Scott Wright playing and starting. I think that was maybe just because he was the only right winger that was fully fit. Kamal Roof, the manager touched on him after the game. He wasn't even on the bench, wasn't in the squad. So I was thinking from either that, it's either one of the two. Either he's injured again, which is obviously bad, or the manager has either just given up on him or just doesn't rate him, whatever, which is also bad. And then Clement's sort of answer in the press conference probably confused me even more because he's saying, well, yeah, we had to be careful of him because he couldn't play a full 90 minutes. Right, well, that's why you put him on the bench then. If he can't play 90 minutes, you can still get something out of him. So I just don't know where we go forward with Kamal Roof now. I think we're all in agreement that he probably shouldn't be given a new contract. I think we're all in agreement that that's very unlikely to happen. But we're still paying a guy here top wages for the next couple of months at least. You need to try and get the best out of him if you can. And for me, I was speaking about it with Alec yesterday on Twitter. You only need Kamal Roof to contribute 1 or 2 goals that can, tip the scales in our favour. He's scored big goals. He's an expert at scoring big goals, and he scored big goals this season for us. So I really think that we need to be doing everything we can to try and just squeeze everything out of him the last couple of months. But at the same time, Dougie, I can understand maybe if the manager's thinking, do you know what, you're no fit, you're probably not going to be fully fit to the end of the season, you know my plans for next season, what's the point?
Yeah, I must admit, I thought Roof would have been on the bench. We had Balogun and King on the bench who play very similar positions. I think if the game was close towards the end of the game and you're looking for somebody to come on and score as a goal, he's probably the only option that would have been available to bring on. So I was surprised from that perspective, but I agree with Ross's comment. I think everything about that team yesterday in terms of the starting 11, the subs made, were very much with one eye on next Sunday. And I think it speaks absolute volumes that Roof wasn't on the bench because Clement's looked to other players who don't have 90 minutes in them to give them the minutes to prepare them for next week. And when I say them, I mean Sima and Sterling. Those are the 2 players that are most likely in contention for some minutes next week. I think Sima is most likely going to be off the bench. For me, Sterling has to start next week against Celtic. Whether that's at left back or right wing is dependent on whether Ridvan is available, because I think we've seen yesterday from Borna that, in my opinion, he's checked out. He's always been somebody who's got the heart of a mouse, and he looks even worse at the moment. We spoke about it a couple of times that the ball was being played to him on the left-hand side, and he kept checking back. Ridvan would have faced forward and moved the ball forward. I think we lost a lot by Ridvan not being available. When Sterling came on, I think Sterling managed Martin Boyle very well in particular. I had the fear when Boyle came on, actually. Sterling smashed him pretty early doors, and I think that's what Sterling gives you. So if Ridvan's fit next week, I think Ridvan starts left back and Sterling at right wing. But if he's not, Sterling will start left back, such as the importance of Sterling just now. But that was probably the kind of the main surprise for me was Scott Wright, and it wasn't a surprise because, as you said, he was really the only fit player to play right wing. And I think what we are seeing with Clement is he's very much got a style of football, and he will play the player that suits the style the best. Not necessarily the best player available, because you've got Tom Lawrence on the bench, who personally I said before in a couple of chats with my mates that I would be looking to get Cantwell and Lawrence into the same 11 whilst the 2 of them are fit. But I think what you've seen with Clement's selection is absolutely he's picking the guys that are best suited for that system, and therefore Scott Wright started. I really hope Scott Wright is not in the starting 11 next week, because as you said, that game summed him up for me. There was a chance in the first half before we scored that was pulled back to him. He should be scoring. He's just somebody, like me and my mate were driving back from the game and we spoke about Sterling. I guarantee that no opponent ever thinks they had an easy game against Sterling. Whether he's at left back or right wing, I guarantee everybody thinks, well, that was a tough shift against a tough player. I don't think anyone would ever think, well, that was a tough game against Scott Wright. He's just there. He's just a player that's just in the kind of periphery of the pitch. I want somebody who's going to be more direct, more kind of commanding of the ball, and I think that's where right now we are missing Seema in 11. It's where we're missing Cortez coming into the squad. And I look at next week, and I don't think Seema will start. As I said, I think Sterling will hopefully start there. The worry that I've got is I think there are other options like Ross McCausland that are a bit too safe, as we've seen when he came on. I think Rabbi Matondo offered what I want a winger to offer, and we'll come on to it in a minute. But for me, I want a winger who's going to come on and just go forward. Just take the ball, show that pace, show the ball carrying ability, and have an eye for goal, whether that be an assist or a shot. And for me, we're going to need, Clement said in his press conference that we have players throughout the entire game, our entire squad that can score goals. That's what we need right now. We can't always rely on one player scoring goals, and I think we do have options right now, which is fantastic. But next week, I hope one of those options is not Scott Wright.
Yeah, I think you speak for most of the support they're getting that one. I think with Sterling at left back, the one thing that maybe concerns me about that is probably the imbalance in terms of the position, because Sterling will give you everything, 100% effort, smash players and all that, brilliant. But there was a moment yesterday, and he didn't do anything wrong per se, right? But I just noticed it where he got the ball and he had it on his left foot, and then he immediately cut in on his right foot because it was almost as if he couldn't use his left foot. So I think that's something that maybe does slightly concern me. To be fair to Barisic, I said it yesterday when me and Scott Bradley done the post-match, that I thought Barisic's done okay. He kind of done his job. I thought yesterday he wasn't amazing, but I thought he'd get pass marks. To be fair, I'm not as worried about him going in next week as what other people would be. I think mostly because he'll probably be up against, I think, Kuhn, who's not really done much for Celtic. And look at me saying that now, and we'll probably come back to bite me next Sunday, hopefully no. But I genuinely think Barisic would be okay against him. He's not really a pacey guy. And I think that's what Barisic struggles against mostly. So I think Barisic would be okay against him. But, I do want Yilmaz to be back. I think for me and everyone, that's kind of the preferred option, to say the least. Ross, in terms of, the first big incident of the game, it was obviously the penalty that was awarded. I think it was John Sewer. He was elbowed in the face. It's a penalty. People again moaning about it. Hibs put out a tweet, which, to be fair, I actually thought was quite funny. Right, I'll admit that. Who had 20 minutes? Unfortunately, my coup never came up because I had 24 minutes. So, unfortunately, I never won my bet with the Rangers penalty roulette. But for me, it's a penalty. But then the weird thing after it, obviously Tav takes it. It's a pretty poor penalty. Wright scores the rebound, but it's the fact that the encroachment, right? It's first of all, it's like Scott Wright's the one that's encroached. There's literally about 9 Hibs players that are in front of Scott Wright that aren't even just encroaching. They seem to be in front of Scott Wright as well. So, as far as I was led to believe, the rule is that no matter who actually encroaches, whether it's an attacking player or a defending player, I was always under the impression that it's retaken. That might be wrong, but certainly, even if that is wrong, maybe Scott Wright was encroaching, but so were tons of other Hibs players. So I think for that, you just go with the on-field decision, which was we got the follow-up, we scored the goal, leave it at that. It cancels each other out. For me, Ross, it was quite a baffling few minutes, to be honest.
It was a baffling few minutes, absolutely. I'll start with the encroaching part. First, actually, it was a poor penalty from Tav.
Yeah.
It was a really poor penalty, which you don't expect to see. I thought Scott Wright did really well to get there first, and I thought it was a really, really good finish. I was furious at Scott Wright 5 minutes beforehand when he passed it to the keeper, or passed to the boy who blocked it off the line. Sorry, it was. I must admit I was out of my seat and shouting at that point, which I'm not proud of. But it was a really nice finish. It was really well done. Now I'll admit, I watched the highlights on Sports Scene this morning. Caught up on that, and they discussed this. And so I'm taking my knowledge of this law from Sports Scene. It could well be wrong. Let's be fair to say that it could well be wrong. What they were saying, the pundits on that, was that if it were just Scott Wright encroaching on the box, it's like an offside. It's a free kick to Hibs. But because Hibs players were encroaching as well, they believed it should have been retaken. Dougie, I suspect you'll know more than me on that, but that's what they were saying.
My understanding of the rule is if Tav puts the ball in the net himself, if you've got two players encroaching, then the goal stands. Basically, the goal stands in that scenario. Because Scott Wright was the encroaching player, he's put the ball in the net. Apparently, the rule is that the goal doesn't stand. There were some really baffling decisions throughout the game, that being one of them. But in terms of the letter of the law, I think the referee actually got that one right. It's just a really, really poor law because actually, if Scott Wright was poorer in that scenario and the defenders got ahead of him, it's a retake. I just think it's an absolutely baffling rule. And it's, you can look at so many scenarios throughout the game. Yesterday, there was the absolute classic where Rangers had the attack and the Hibs player was lying in the box. The Hibs player went to get up until he realised that Rangers were attacking. Then he lay down and held his head. And as we were attacking, about to create a goal-scoring opportunity, the referee blows the whistle. And that's where the referee's following the law correctly. He's also given the ball to Hibs, even though we had the ball. That's because the player is in the box. He's followed the rules correctly as such. And the issue that I've got in the likes of that scenario is the referee has the ability to override and make a kind of personal judgment. We've seen in the Newcastle West Ham game just yesterday that the referee allowed play to continue when a player at a free kick was feigning a head knock. The referee should have been clever enough and experienced enough and confident enough to realise that player's looked up, seen we're attacking, and then he's held his head. But actually, the penalty, that decision, they were just, I think the referee's been practising drop balls for weeks in the build up to this game. But they actually, in my opinion, they were the right decisions. It's just they're frustrating in the moment and, very, very marginal. Clement made the joke about a shoe size too big for Scott Wright. And see, when you look at it, you can't get much closer. It's so harsh.
No, and without going kind of down a rabbit hole, public confidence in VAR at the moment is so low. Do you trust that they have the technology to do that frame by frame and accurately measure it? I certainly don't. I think if the law's been applied correctly, fine. Speaking as a football fan, did he get an advantage from the amount that he was encroaching? Certainly not. It's another reason to be annoyed at Scott Wright. You go, that there's cameras on this. Make sure you've got one job if you want to be the first one there. Make sure you're not encroaching. But to go back to the challenge itself, was it a penalty? I'll be honest. I after the game yesterday, I had my flight home was at 6:45, so I was out the door, walking up towards Balbeg Street where I get a cab, and I had my headphones and I was listening to BBC Scotland after the game. And the first thing I heard by the time I got BBC Scotland on was Michael Stewart saying the penalty was a shambles. It was an absolute shambles. And I sincerely believed, because I was actually yesterday, I was sat up at the Broomlow end in the club deck, so I had a really good view of it. I sincerely believed that he was saying it was a shambles that the penalty wasn't given first time. Because my view of it was like, this is a clear penalty. He's elbowed him. Now, I've seen it back a number of times, also, and you would be discussing tonight. It's a point of contention. I've also seen that every pundit in the world seems to think that this was a disgraceful decision. It was never a penalty. And I think when you come on a podcast like this, right, we're Rangers fans, we have a degree of bias, but you do, particularly when it's a decision that everyone is saying was wrong, you try and have an objective view. So I'll try and have an objective view of this. I still believe that was a penalty. And the reason that I believe it's a penalty, I don't, I've heard things, he's jumping and his arms go out because that's how you jump. Where's his arm supposed to go? Well, the argument of where's his arm supposed to go doesn't seem to matter when it's a handball. It certainly didn't seem to matter when John Souttar gave away a penalty against Benfica. So now all of a sudden it's supposed to matter. So make your mind up. Does it matter where's his arm supposed to go or does it not? The other thing is the Hibs boy jumps. He gets nowhere near the ball. So he doesn't win the ball and he takes out a player. Does it matter that it's accidental? I don't care that he didn't mean to tackle our player, that he didn't mean to take out our player. He jumped to win a ball, he didn't win a ball, and he cleared out the man. Anywhere else on the park, that's a foul. If you do that from a goal kick, right? If the goalkeeper launches the ball and you're in the middle of the park and you jump to win just a free header in the middle of the park and you miss it and you take out another player, that's a free kick. I genuinely, and I try and be fair, I try and be rational and reasonable. And one of the points I was going to make tonight was I completely agree with, say, the drop ball to the Hibs goalkeeper when Tom Lawrence was through on goal. Should have made the decision earlier. The player shouldn't have been feigning injury. The referee could have been smarter. But when he's made that decision, he did follow the rules properly. So I'll try and be fair and honest. I do not understand how people are saying this isn't a penalty.
It's only not a penalty, Ross, because it's against Rangers.
Right, but I think I have to agree. I think because there's such a furore now about Rangers getting penalties, despite the statistics show that we're not the biggest recipient of penalties. I simply don't understand how it's not a penalty. He jumps to win a ball, he doesn't win a ball, and he takes out the man. Do that with your feet. You go into a tackle, miss the ball, take out the man, foul. Celtic won a penalty from an accidental head knock. There was no intention. They didn't mean to do it, but that was a penalty. But this isn't. I don't understand it. It was a penalty. It was a poor penalty that he took. I don't have any complaints with the encroaching thing. He did encroach, and as Dougie says, then that's the rules have been followed correctly in that regard. So fine, but it was a penalty. Come on.
Yeah. No,
that's it. That Celtic penalty was also against Hibs, and I don't remember people like Michael Stewart being so vocal about. To Michael Stewart's point, you're going for the ball. It's natural you've got to allow some kind of collision in the box. I don't remember the same narrative around the Celtic one, for example. The question that on BBC Sportsline that Michael Stewart kept getting asked by the host is, by the letter of the law, is it a penalty? The letter of the law is the player elbowed him when he was going for a header. The player stopped Souttar from heading the ball. By the letter of the law, it is a penalty. Michael Stewart and too many pundits are too obsessed with anti-Rangers agendas that they're too concerned with their opinion of whether it should be a penalty or not the law. And I think that's where we have to, as you said, Ross, with the one going forward, even the calamitous free kick from Hibs, it's hit the player, it's hit the other player, and then it's came back. Under the letter of the law, that is a Hibs indirect free kick or a drop ball, because the Hibs player was the last player to touch it. We have to remember that we are passionate. We all have our views around, whether it should be or not. But there's a law. We have to follow the law. And guys like Michael Stewart are too busy with their anti-Rangers agendas rather than actually thinking about the law of the game.
Yeah, see, to be honest, Dougie, I think with people like him, it's just got beyond a joke now, where I genuinely think it's for attention. It's part of this gimmick now, and it's like it's just boring. Like, it's genuinely boring. I mean, and this is what I don't understand about that pundit in particular. It's like, we'll all sit and have a monitor, like, so, Chris Sutton and John Hartswood for saying things, right? But at least we can accept that they will most likely have a bias in favour of Celtic because they used to play for Celtic and they're Celtic fans and all the rest of it, right? So I can understand their motivations for being pro-Celtic and anti-Rangers. I don't understand what a former Hibs and Hearts, weirdly, midfielders' obsession with, Rangers. And a lot of people say, it stems down from him, failing a trial. To be quite honest, I don't know if it's got anything to do with that. I just think, that this isn't really a football matter. But if you look at the sort of traditional sort of political stance of Rangers as a club compared to what Michael Stewart believes in as an individual, it's the complete polar opposite. And I think that probably clouds his judgment a lot when it comes to, who he hates rather than what he actually supports, if that kind of makes sense. But it's quite bizarre that, you've got a sort of a random guy that used to play in Scotland for neither of the Old Firm being so against one particular Old Firm club. I might be wrong, but off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone else like that, as a neutral pundit that never played for Rangers and Celtic and is so openly, not so much in favour of one club, but against another. Marvin Bartley's a pundit now. He's, used to play for Hibs, for Livy. I don't see him coming out and making statements against Rangers or Celtic. And other pundits, Chris Abulumo and stuff like that, even though I think he's a Celtic fan. Even like I James McFadden can be a bit rational, even though he grew up a Celtic fan as well. But this guy's hatred of Rangers, it's bizarre. It's genuinely bizarre. And, as I say, I can't understand it because it's like, it's not as if he used to play for Celtic. It's not as if he grew up supporting Celtic and going to Celtic Park. So the fact that this guy hates Rangers so much, it's bizarre. But to be quite honest, it probably sums up sort of Scottish football's feeling towards Rangers as a whole. And to be quite honest, I love it. So they can continue to hate us as much as they want. It's not going to change anything. We'll continue to do what they do, and they can continue to greet about it as far as I'm concerned.
Craig, our tin-pot Scottish League at times is far superior to the best league in the world. You look at the game this afternoon, nothing each, Borefest.
Terrible.
I'd take Scottish football over that all day long.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think a bit, you're actually thinking, what if it's Man City, Arsenal in the semis of the Champions League? Can you really go through 290 minutes of that and maybe extra time of that as well? Hopefully they'll be a wee bit more open. In fact, I think they probably will be because, I think today was about not losing, but I'm digressing too much. Let's continue on to the game. Dougie, I'll stick with you. James Tavernier scored shortly after, which made him Britain's highest scoring ever defender, which is quite impressive because if you think that penalty to Rangers starts something, I remember not too long ago, a certain Graham Alexander seemed to be scoring a penalty every single week for Burnley in the Championship and then the Premier League. I thought his finish was excellent. It was almost like he went, nah, I'm not messing this up after what I done a couple of minutes ago. He absolutely whacked it. The keeper had no chance. Brilliant finish. He's had a couple of them for Rangers before. I remember one that he scored at Fir Park. I think it might have been Bassey to turn, and he volleyed it. Very similar goal. Yeah, need to do a bit in him. You kind of just run out of superlatives and words to describe this guy. The fact that as well, I think not even half of his goals have actually been penalties as well, which is it's just remarkable, to be quite honest, the numbers that he's got. And he took responsibility yesterday, to be fair to him, for the goal that Hibs conceded, but that's what a captain, that's what a leader does, Dougie. He steps up and takes responsibility when he doesn't get things right. Although I do think he was saying yesterday that he's not going to allow his wife to choose what side of the net he shoots at for his next penalty. So let's hope that doesn't continue, and let's hope he continues his diet of mashed totties for the foreseeable future as well.
He really did throw Mrs. Tab under the bus, didn't he?
I know, the poor woman. It's Easter as well.
She probably won't be watching anyway. He'll go up the road and she'll not be watching the press conference. But a huge, incredible achievement from Tav to become Britain's all-time leading goal-scoring defender. He's only 8 behind Sergio Ramos as well, who happened to score at the weekend as well. So he could become Europe's leading goal-scorer whilst wearing a Rangers jersey, which is an incredible achievement. It really is. I love the fact that he complimented Rangers as a huge driver and Rangers allowing him to play the type of game that he's always thought that he could play. And I think that's the reason why he's been so successful at Rangers. He's allowed to go forward, and this whole narrative around he only scores penalties is complete nonsense. Poor penalty, very poor penalty. I think he just took all his aggression out in that goal yesterday. When that ball came across, he leathered it into the net, determined to go and break that record yesterday. It's a great finish. Incredible to think he's got 22 goals and 10 assists this year from right back. We have to remember he is right back, and there's this narrative that he's not a great defender. Granted, he held his hands up for the goal. I think a lot of people can hold their hands up for the goal. Lundstrom was slow at getting back. Butland's jumped in a very strange manner coming out to the ball. I think he should be coming down low towards the ball. Tav wasn't the only one. I actually think Tav is underrated. He's, I seen a post the other day on Twitter around who's the most underrated Rangers player in your lifetime? And I think, Craig, you could have posted Davy Weir. Did you post Davy Weir?
I did post Sir David O'Weir, yes.
I think Davy Weir's fantastic, and I agree he's underrated in terms of his time at Rangers. I would trump Davy Weir by saying James Tavernier. I just don't think supporters. I just think supporters at Rangers will not fully appreciate James Tavernier until he's gone, and he's 33 this year. There's a lot of rumoured interest from Saudi Arabia just now in Tav. It would not surprise me if we won the league this year and Tav made the decision to bow out as a leader that allowed Rangers to get some money in the back pocket for a player who's ageing right now at the club. And it would be an absolutely brilliant way to end his Rangers career, because there's always been this bit hanging over him around his Hall of Fame inductee, around he hasn't won enough trophies. He's now won every trophy in Scottish football in terms of top flight trophies. He's won a championship, he's won a Petrofac. In fact, that goal in the Petrofac Cup final is my favourite James Tavernier goal. The variety of goals this guy scores is unbelievable. And I'm with you. You run out of superlatives when you talk about James Tavernier. I'm his biggest fan. I've got one signed framed top in my house of a current and ex-Rangers player. It's James Tavernier. He's my favourite player of the last decade, and the rest, I would say. Huge fan of him. Genuinely, I think go back to my point. I think you only recognise his worth when he's gone. I really, really hope, for so many reasons, that we win the league this year. But I do hope that if there's any rumoured interest from Saudi, and there's any kind of truth in it, and he does leave in the summer, I hope he leaves as a winner. And I hope when he does leave, whether it's this summer or not, I hope he leaves with a lot more medals in his backpack, because as a servant to this club, for the fee that we paid for him, there are very few players that we can sit back in years to come and think that's value for money. For me, he is arguably one of our best signings in my lifetime.
Yeah, I can't really disagree, Dougie. Except the only thing I will say is I'm putting my foot down. He's no for sale. He's not going to Saudi Arabia. I'm saying that. I might not be in charge of the decisions, but it can happen. And see, to be quite honest as well, right? I mean, this is maybe a little aside, but I know there's been a lot of debate about, the likes of should we sell Buckland in the summer if we get a decent offer, maybe even should we sell Tav. See with Tav right now, he is in his prime, right? I think maybe if he's showing signs of slowing down or deteriorating, maybe that's when you can kind of think of, right, can we maybe slow it down? Could we even look at maybe putting him in a different position, using him in a different way? Because the one thing with Tav, it's like, touch wood, he's never been injured. The only time I can remember him being injured was after we won the league a couple of years ago. I think he was out for 2 or 3 weeks. But that's been it. He's fully fit. The guy's an athlete. He's a personification of an athlete. He turns 33 this year, but we've seen the advancements in science and medical and stuff like that the last few decades. He's got 2 years left of his contract, I think. If he's playing at this level in 2 years, why not give him a new contract? Why not try and drain everything that we can get out of him for as long as we can? Because I don't think James Tavernier's going to be in a hurry to leave Rangers to go anywhere, to be quite frank. He's obviously very settled here. He's had his kids here with his wife. This is his home. This is where he belongs. And I can't see him being one to go out. I think he should end his career at Rangers. I think if he's given the opportunity to do that, he would do that. And that's something that I would like to see happen. But, long may it continue, and hopefully it can continue at least for a couple more years. I mean, we want him, Dougie, to win more medals this year, but we don't want him to go after that. We want him to win medals this year, and then next year, and the following year, and then the year after that, and just continue on for as long as we possibly can. So hopefully he doesn't go anywhere. Ross, wanted to come on to Ravi Matondo before we speak about other issues out with the game yesterday. It was a great finish. I'm not Matondo's biggest fan. I don't profess to be. And to be quite honest, a goal yesterday still doesn't really change that opinion, but I'll certainly give him his credit. It was a great goal. I actually seen a stat earlier, I don't know if you did, where it was showing like his goals and assists, and it was when it was put up basically like minute by minute, and he's actually getting a goal or assist round about one a game. if you actually compare it against the minutes versus games played, which is actually really good. I mean, in my opinion, if you're a winger or a creative player at Rangers, I want at least a goal or an assist every 2 games as a sort of good benchmark. That's just my view. Obviously, people can have their own opinions on that one, but that's what I like to see. I mean, Matondo's doing technically that rated double what I like, so it's a wonder that I'm not a big fan of him. But, you know, he could have a big part to play going forward. We're going to need him. And to be fair to him, Ross, if he continues on in his form, you know, why not? Why can he not be that first choice left winger for the rest of the season and going into next season?
Yeah, and I don't think his chances were harmed by a comparatively poor performance from Fabio Silva yesterday. I thought the substitution was made at a good time, brought him on at a good time. He made an impact. I'm the same as you, though. I just can't take the guy. I think he started this season really well, did he not? And then had an injury and fell away. But look, there's a number of cliches we could use about how, well, if he was a bit more consistent, he wouldn't be playing for Rangers. And he's probably just one of those that never lived up to the hype of his or the potential of his early career. His output is good. I guess it's not too much of a stretch to say his output's probably the best of all of our wide players, given that Sima has had such a long layoff. Maybe that's not. Maybe Sima still shades that by virtue of the goals that he's scored. But I actually think we are still quite weak out wide. I think we're weak on the flanks. I actually think of Rabbi Matondo, Scott Wright, and I'm sorry to say Ross McCausland as very similar players. I think none of the three of them, and Ross McCausland's obviously a bit of an exception because of the age and the potential of it, but at the moment I don't think any of them are actually strong enough to be guaranteed starters or key players for Rangers, which is a travesty, really, that we're not strong enough in the wide positions. That being said, hell of a good goal. Not the first good goal he's scored for us in the last few weeks as well. I don't know. I get the sense that Clement likes him. Actually, I know that Clement has been working with him on his shooting, and his shooting was woeful ever since he joined the club. His finishing has been terrible. So that was a really good finish, and I'll be disappointed if he is the wide player that we have to rely on in the run in. I think Fabio Silva is probably a better player. In fact, no, Fabio Silva is a better player. Fabio Silva is a better footballer than Rabbi Matondo, but he's not performing. He's not racking up. I thought Silva looked tired yesterday. He had an extraordinarily good and productive international break with Portugal's under-21s, but I thought he looked tired and leggy and made some bad decisions. Sima, I get the sense that the manager is going to want to play Sima through the middle for some reason. So, look, we probably are going to be relying on a kind of rolling combination of Wright, McCausland and Matondo. I, for some reason, feel that all three of those players play better when they come off the bench, when everyone else around them is tired and they've got some pace and they've got some legs and they can run at people. I thought that was what Matondo did really well yesterday. So I don't really know if I've answered the question there. I kind of just rambled on a wee bit, but I don't particularly like him, but I do like what he's producing for Rangers right now.
Yeah, no, it was a great finish to be fair to him, and you know, we'll see what he brings moving forward. Sorry, Dougie, you want to say something?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ross. I don't think any of the three players that you mentioned are good enough to be a Rangers starting player, and something that shouldn't come into it for us supporters. It's for the money men at Rangers to focus on, but wages is a big factor for me. We don't have an infinite amount of money to go and have players like Rabbi Matondo sitting on the bench. The rumour, let's just say rumour-wise, because it's available online if you go and you put in Rangers weekly wages. The rumour is that Rabbi Matondo's on £28,000 a week. To contextualise that, John Lundstrom, who wants a new contract apparently and wants a pay rise apparently, is only on £22,000 a week at Rangers. John Lundstrom, for me, is one of our, and it's not just for me actually, John Lundstrom is one of our key team leaders. You know, when you think of Butland, Tav, Goldson, Lundstrom, that is our core team leaders in that dressing room that are the most important players in our 11. they're the most important players in our dressing room. Rabbi Matondo is on more than 2 of those, because apparently Jack Butland is on less than that as well, because he came just for the first team football. That blows my mind. And for that reason, Rabbi Matondo should be giving us more. And unless he starts giving us more, for me, we need to be ruthless in the summer. We have a huge transformation ahead of us in this summer, and we're going to need to bring in money that allows us to spend money. That'll involve selling guys out on loan like Lammers, Hadji controversially, but it'll also see guys around the first team right now that supporters might think, I like him, he's contributed something. We will need to move them on to bring in money if we're going to want to strengthen. And I ask you this, who would you rather have, Cortez or Matondo? And for me, it's Cortez. And if we can sell Matondo and use the transfer fee and the wages to bring in Cortez, I'm taking it all day long.
Yeah, it's a few good points there. And we'll come on to a couple of players that you just mentioned there, Dougie, in a moment. But firstly, just want to give another message from our partners, Football Prizes, who are a company who specialise in football competitions and match draws. And if you head over to our Twitter at Gersnet online, you can see the prize this week. It's a signed Jack Butland canvas. Tickets are £3.95. There's 199 of them, and the competition ends this Thursday, the 4th of April at 7:30 p.m. You can see the canvas there on the screen. It's the man himself lifting the League Cup after that one against Aberdeen at Hampden in December, signed by the Rangers number 1 as well. So if you want that prize, head over to footballprizes.co.uk. You can also get the link over at our Twitter at Gersnet online as well to pick that one up. Dougie, I'll stick with you then for this one. Sam Lammers scored again for Utrecht. I think he scored 3 games in a row now for Utrecht. Incredible. Yanis Hadji as well, you mentioned him. He's not really having a great time out on loan in Spain at the moment. I think most of us are in agreement that, it's kind of bye-bye Lammers. We would not like you to be here next season, but do as well as you can for Utrecht and try and get as much money as you can for him in the summer. Yanis Hadji is a different question because, I think Yanis Hadji's been a very good player for Rangers, to be honest, when he has played, and that is the issue. It's, he's not played enough. He showed glimpses in his loan spell that he was good. Obviously had the moment against Braga, and he had a couple of decent enough moments. But Gerrard felt he's enough to spend, I think it was £3 million on him. And to be quite honest, I felt the season that we won the league a couple of years ago, he was magnificent. I think he had the most amount of assists in the team, in the league. And he played a key role in that team in a kind of sort of right forward kind of position. But I thought he was brilliant. He started the following season, I think he scored in the opening day against Livy, wasn't really contributing with the numbers, was being rotated. It never really changed when Gio came in, and then obviously picks up that injury, and that's basically where everything changed for Hadji in terms of his Rangers career. He obviously came back towards the tail end of last season, but I think we're all in agreement that was really just to try and give him some game time. I think something must have happened to having Michael Beale. Can't say for sure, but that's my sort of gut feeling on it, that meant him getting shipped out on loan, which I was a wee bit disappointed about because I like Hadji. I think he's got something to offer. Obviously, he'll come back to us in the summer, and he's on a pretty long-term contract as well. I think he's still going to have 2 or 3 years left on his deal, so he is an asset in terms of we could sell him for a bit of money. But I also think he could be an asset in terms of a player. My position on it, Dougie, is I like Hadji. I want to see him do well, but I'm not naive. I understand the position that we're in as a club and he's also in as an individual. I think if I was Philippe Clement, I would want him to come in the summer, assess him, see where he is, and if he can fit into the plans, brilliant, keep him. We've got a player there. Ideally, and this might sound a bit controversial, but I would like to have Hadji and Cantwell be the sort of 2 competitors for that number 10 position. I think Tom Lawrence is great. I think he's a brilliant player, but my concern with him is his injury record. And to be quite honest, if you're going to make me choose between Hadji and Tom Lawrence in terms of who's probably going to play more, I would probably choose Hadji because he has done more in a Rangers shirt despite how good Tom Lawrence is as a player. And maybe then you could look at offloading Lawrence to maybe try and make up some money. That's my kind of thinking on it, but I don't know. It really just depends. But what's your sort of view on the Hagi situation moving forward, do you?
Yeah, I like Hagi. I think Hagi's an excellent footballer. I think his finest hour in a Rangers jersey came in that comeback against Braga, where he obviously got us off the mark and then scored the winner, 3-2 finished after going 2 goals behind. He was excellent that game. He was on loan at that point. And I think it was a no-brainer to sign him permanently. And I think, to credit Ross Wilson, I think Ross Wilson actually did well to bring him in on loan, to sign him permanently, and actually to cut the fee down at the point of signing him permanently because of the kind of COVID situation at the time. The issue that I've got with Hagi, or the thing that I think has gone wrong for Hagi, with Hagi, is 2 things. One, previous managers until Clement didn't play a number 10 in terms of that central attacking midfielder and the traditional number 10, not this kind of inverted 10s that Gerrard and Beale liked. And therefore he didn't have the opportunity to play in what is his strongest position to show his talent. Naturally, he was already slow pre-injury, and when he came back after the injury, which was a sickener happening against Stirling Albion in a meaningless cup game for one, he was out for so long, he came back slower. He was never going to be a right winger, so he was never going to suit Michael Beale's team. And you asked there, I don't know what went wrong with him under Michael Beale. For me, that was it. Is Michael Beale didn't play that central 10. He was looking for guys to contribute from the wing. He's not fast enough. Michael Beale had already gone into the summer as well, into the transfer window in the summer, and picked the guys that he thought suited his style, his system better. And that included Lammers, it included Dowell. You've got to remember, these guys were recruited to be 10s when you already had Cantwell and you already had Lawrence coming back. The competition for 10s at Rangers, at that point, whether you think they were good players or not, was rife. And our manager at the time made the decision to back Lammers, to back Dowell, to bring them in, and ultimately that led to Hagi leaving. It's going to be a big decision for Clement in terms of where he sees that number 10 role from the summer and beyond. I've got to be very honest, and it's based on the transfers of January. I am very excited about what Clement can do with a full pre-season and what Niels Coppin can do with a recruitment perspective. He's clearly eyeing up the likes of the South American market. I think he's bringing a PSV shortlist to Rangers as well, which is obviously proved fruition because we've been able to sign guys like Cortez and like Diamonde and like Fabio Silva, who was at PSV, but I think they were all on PSV shortlist. So I wouldn't be surprised if Clement and Niels Coppin have already got their eye on someone, and I think that may go against Hagi. But I think you're right. I think Cantwell stays in the team. I think Cantwell offers something that is very rare for a number 10, and that's determination. It's grit. See when we went to 1-1 yesterday, Cantwell rolled his sleeves up, and I really liked that about him. See the goal, the Dessers goal, it came from Cantwell. It came from Cantwell working hard and putting a brilliant ball in the box. So for me, Cantwell is a no-brainer. Who the other person is that's challenging that, I can tell you it's not Lammers. I can tell you it's not Dowell. I don't think it's Lawrence either. I think Lawrence has got a very important part to play between now and the end of the season, similar to what you said about Roof. But Lawrence is getting older. I think Lawrence is 29. He has a year left to run of his contract, I believe it is, come this summer. He hasn't been reliable every single week. And for me, Clement likes a player that you can rely on fitness-wise. I wouldn't be surprised if Lawrence leaves. And I think that opens up a space for Hagi. But I think the fact that it's not worked out at Alaves for Hagi suggests that Hagi's time at Rangers is coming to an end. I also think at this time of Hagi's career, he will want to be playing regular first-team football. And I think he is not guaranteed that. I know we do rotate a lot and we give a lot of minutes to players. We play in a lot of competitions. But Cantwell holds that jersey, and I think Hagi will know that. I think from a lot of noises coming from the Hagi camp, they're already looking at a move. And Galatasaray were rumoured today. It's no surprise that Galatasaray were rumoured. They've been rumoured so many times. I think the Hagi name automatically links to Galatasaray. But the interesting fact about Hagi in Turkey is Yanis Hagi was born in Turkey. So he actually becomes homegrown as such if he was to sign for a Turkish team under the Turkish law. So for that reason, I think that there's no surprise that teams like Galatasaray are looking around Hadji. But with the Hadji name, with what we know he's capable of, we only sell guys like Yanis Hadji if we get a good bid. You know, the figure was £2.5 million that was quoted today. I wouldn't take 2.5 million for him, nor would I take 2.5 million for Lammers, which might seem absolutely crazy because of the Sam Lammers that we've seen. But the Sam Lammers in Holland right now is showing that he is actually a good player, just not suited to Rangers and Scottish football. So I think we have an important summer, both in terms of bringing players in, but it stems from winning the league and getting Champions League, automatic Champions League football. But I think the sales that we make as well are huge. And unfortunately, and whilst I like Hadji, I think if we can get £3 to £4 million for guys like Hadji, I think Coppin will want to go and spend that elsewhere. I think we'll be better suited to get into the transfer market and bringing someone new in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Yanis Hadji. Ross, we've got a game coming up next Sunday. We'll know the final result of it this time in exactly 7 days. Just a small matter of an old firm game against your biggest rivals, which will probably determine the outcome of the league title. It's no biggie, is it? Who cares? It's going to be a really interesting game because, you know, in terms of us anyway, we've got a lot of players coming back from injury. Clement's got a headache in terms of who does he pick. I think mostly in those attacking areas. And it's probably the only time that he's been able to choose this many players from, you know, in a variety of positions. Moving into next week, Ross, how do you see the game going? And what do you think the team will be in terms of, you know, what do you think the manager will do? And what would you do personally if you were the manager?
It's a huge game. And not to oversimplify it, but I believe the winner of this game wins the league. I think that's highly, highly likely. I'm also sure that if we win every game between now and the split, we definitely win the league. So this is big. This is really big. It feels like the biggest Old Firm game for a few years. It's also the most confident I've been for a few years, to be honest. It's the most confident I felt possibly since that after the 55 season, and we started the next season quite well after when Ange came in. So I think you're right. Clement's got decisions to make. I don't know what he'll do up front. The obvious choice is put Dessers up front. I wouldn't be surprised to see him drop for Sima. Personally, I think that's why I gave Sima a run yesterday, was to see his fitness and to get him some minutes. But I wouldn't be surprised. I said at the start of this show, I believe that his team selection yesterday, with the exception of Barisic at left back, his team selection was entirely dictated by what he wants to do next week. So I'm sure we're seeing Tom Lawrence next week. I'm sure we're seeing Dujon Sterling start next week somewhere. So it's huge, isn't it? It's absolutely huge. I watched 20 minutes of Celtic today. Celtic over the last 2.5 seasons since Ange came in, Celtic have been defined as a team that will just always score goals. They always score, no matter what. And by the way, that's been our downfall against them in the last 2 games this season, is that they're no better than us, but they find ways to score goals that we wouldn't. That's not happening at the minute. That seems to have changed in the last couple of months, is that they are struggling to score goals. They went into the break today against Livingston, having had 1 shot on target. Livingston were throwing bodies at it and were defending solidly, but they went into half-time having had 1 shot on target. Of course, they go on, they win the game 3-0. So they scored 3 goals, and maybe that nullifies my point a little bit. But I do believe that they are struggling to score goals. And like I say, Celtic have been high conceding, but they've been scoring more. I think they're weak at the back. I don't believe that Liam Scales and Alistair Johnson, Anthony Ralston, I don't believe these are top-class players. I really don't. So, look, we're favourites. We're favourites to win the league. We're favourites to win this game with the bookies. I do worry because our defence is prone to a lapse in concentration. We saw it again yesterday. I received a few critical comments after my last appearance on this show, and I was quite harsh about Connor Goldson. But I believe over the last 6 months or so, he's shown time and time again that he has a mistake in him, and it often leads to a goal. Problem with Rangers at the moment, we don't give up a huge number of chances, but the chances that we do give up often lead to us conceding a goal. If that happens with the likes of Maeda or Kyogo, Matt O'Reilly, they could well punish us. But it just feels like things are falling into place. Their fans are ready to riot. They're not scoring a load of goals. They're weak at the back. We've got all our players coming back to the extent, as we said, we were able yesterday to have a strong bench and to give those players minutes from 60 minutes onwards in order to prioritise the Old Firm. It feels like we're in a really commanding position. So it's a huge game. There's loads of nerves, but this is the most confident I've been for some time.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ross. I'm pretty confident heading into it. I mean, I'm nervous. You're always going to be nervous heading into these games, but I'm trying to look at this from a logical point of view. And logically, I cannot see anything other than a Rangers victory next week. If you add up Rangers form, everything that's happened with Rangers recently, if you add up Celtic's form and everything that's happened with Celtic recently, logically, it's at Ibrox. We've got the crowd behind us. I think we can and should go on and win this game. Obviously, the issue could be just doing it in practice. And, if we got that, that sort of cutting edge to go and do it in a big game like this against Celtic, which, let's be honest, time and time again, the core group of players that we've got haven't done that consistently. The group of players this season haven't done that, against Celtic at all. So we do need to be wary, but I'm very, very confident. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to do this, that, and the next thing, but I'm confident heading into this game next week. And I agree with you, Ross. It's the most confident that I've been going into an Old Firm game for a number of years, to be quite honest. I think the thing that really I'm looking at is, like, for us, if we draw, I'm like, okay, if we draw, it's a draw, nothing really changes. But even if we get beat, worst case scenario, if we beat Dundee, we're a point behind, right? If Celtic lose next week, we won't be saying it as Rangers fans, but Celtic fans will be saying that the league's done. They will say that the league's done if we beat them next week and we end up going 5 points clear. As you say, if we win all of our league games up to the split, worst case scenario, we're 5 points ahead. So, we should be winning the league from that point if that does transpire. But that's the thing. It's like you're talking about pressure. For me, the pressure's on Celtic, Dougie, to not lose this game next week. They simply cannot lose because we know what is going to happen if they do get beat in terms of how their fans are going to react. Wonder what Brendan Rodgers will come out and say in the media if they're beat as well. But let's just focus on the football. I'm confident heading into next week. What do you think the manager should do in terms of his team selection? How are you feeling about it, Dougie?
Well, in terms of how I'm feeling about it, the Dundee postponement still irks me because we should be going in top of the league and we should be going into this game going 5 points clear. Instead, the mentality is different in terms of Celtic are the leading team right now. They shouldn't be the leading team right now, but they are on points. If we win, we obviously go above them by 2 points and we then become the leading team. But we need to do that. This confidence worries me. And the reason it worries me is we haven't beat them this year. We've had 2 cracks at it. I would argue that, again, officials are the top reason why we didn't beat them in the earlier 2 games. I go back to that game at Ibrox when Kamar Roof scored. That goal should have counted. And there's the handball, Alistair Johnson handball, and the game at Celtic Park. So many big instances of going against Rangers. We should be top of the league this year. But at this point right now, because of Dundee, because of the games against Celtic, things that have gone against us. But the confidence worries me, and it's because of what Ross said. I think we're prone to an error at the back, and that does worry me, I think. I'm actually a huge Connor Goldson fan, but controversially, I think he's on the decline right now. And I've seen Frankie in the comments saying that in the summer, we will probably start to look towards a Connor Goldson successor and a Connor Goldson partner, because that is not John Souttar next season when you're trying to step up. So I'm a wee bit worried about defence. Hopefully Ridvan makes it. And if Ridvan does make it, I actually think goalkeeper, defence, midfield picks itself. I think it's the exact same as what started yesterday, but with Ridvan filling in or coming back into his position for Barisic. The next worry I have is that front three. I am hugely worried about our front three, because you've got a number 9 who he misses so many big chances. You know, I joked in the chat earlier on around his chance for Nigeria, and Rob said he didn't care because it wasn't a Rangers jersey. But for me, that sums up Dessers, is he can have big opportunities. Sometimes in games you only get that one opportunity, and he misses them. You need a striker who's going to take those chances when they come. The caveat to that, and my dad was completely in the opposite end of the argument with me yesterday at the game, which is, even before he scored, my dad said, Dessers will score. Dessers will score. There's, 8 games of the season to go? You're looking at 4 games, roughly, that Dessers needs to score, kind of 1-2 ratio, roughly, and Dessers has done his job as a centre-forward. And that's the flip side of it, is that he will score in other games. It was actually a huge goal. That's a good header as well yesterday. So the flip side of that is that Dessers will get his goals, but I'm not confident with Dessers going in against Celtic. I'm not confident that we will get that one chance and Dessers will bury it in the way that we've had strikers in the past. I'm also not sure what we'll do out wide. You know, it completely depends on whether Ridvan is fit or not. I think if Ridvan is fit, as I said earlier, I think Sterling will start right wing. But if Ridvan is not fit, I'm not sure who starts right wing, because I don't want it to be Scott Wright. He's not the answer. And I'm not convinced any of the other guys are fit enough to start like Ross McCausland. And I go back to the comment that Ross made earlier on. I'm not sure any of these guys are Rangers starting quality. You know, McCausland, Wright, Matondo. So that worries me on the right-hand side. And if Sterling isn't chosen at right wing, I think we've got a problem at left wing. Ross, I agree with you earlier on in terms of Silva's got more ability than Matondo and his kind of left pinky. The worry that I've got with Silva's is lack of pace. So many times against Hibs yesterday, we had an opportunity to break on them, and Silva kept having to turn round and bring the ball back again. He's up against Alistair Johnston, potentially, when it comes to Sunday, and Alistair Johnston's no slouch. Well, Silva's got a lot of tricks, and by the way, tricks, as Roy Mackay said, are for the circus, and they frustrate me, because there was so many times against Hibs yesterday that guys like Fabio Silva were trying wee daft flicks at points when the game wasn't in the bag, and I didn't like it. And I think it's going back to that point earlier on, is I just want to win games right now, and I'm a wee bit tense, so you can forgive my tension when Silva tries a flick and it goes out of the play. But I worry about Silva. I can't remember the last game that Silva was at Ibrox left wing and caused so many problems that he is an automatic starter. And I've seen Frankie put a questionnaire out earlier on around who starts left wing, and Matondo comes out quite high. And I think Matondo started the last game against Celtic as well. And I just wonder, Matondo suits a team that press higher, that he can get in behind. Celtic are going to come at us at some point in that game. They might not do it from the beginning because a draw suits them as such, because there's any game at Celtic Park. I wonder if Matondo comes into contention after his goal. So it'll be interesting to see the team. As I said, I think a lot of positions, I think 8 positions pick themselves. That front three is going to be very interesting as we head to Ibrox and what the manager chooses. But I am with you, guys, in terms of, I think if we win this game, the Celtic fans are fragile at the moment. They think that we are the leading team, although they're top of the league, which is a strange mindset. There is a title race. They're not up for the fight. And I think it's because they've had so much their own way in the last decade or so that they're not used to it being this tight and this hard fought. But I think the Sharks come out if we win, and that's why it's so important that we get this win. I know you made the comment, Craig, around a draw keeps it open, and anything can happen going into the split if we win against Dundee and Ross County. But I think a win from a mindset perspective puts us leading. It puts us in a mindset that we have now beaten Celtic this year. We are the team top of the league. I think for them it's everything. I think it then brings the Sharks out. So what a huge game. I am buzzing. I am absolutely buzzing. It's a type of game that when we take our season tickets out and when you go to Ibrox that you're wanting to go to, this is the biggest game since Leipzig. Easy. Biggest league game. I mean, we didn't get a chance to enjoy 55 because of the COVID era, but this is the biggest league game that I can remember in over a decade. It is huge. I hope everybody is up for it, and I hope Tav stops listening to his wife in case we do get a penalty.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get a penalty next Sunday anyway, because of this pattern of assistance that's going on in favour of us, so I'll take it. And actually, if we do get a penalty next Sunday, Ross, that would actually put us top of the awarded penalties this season, so that would be brilliant. I mean, Dougie talks about Sharks. I mean, the Clyde might empty if that happens next Sunday, but let's hope it does. Lastly, Dougie, you going to give us a prediction for next Sunday?
Not until I see the team.
Ross, I assume that's the same with you?
Yeah, even once I've seen the team, I'll tell you at 2:00 next Sunday.
Yeah, Scott asked me that yesterday in the post-match, and I said, even if we were winning 99-0 in the 89th minute, I still wouldn't make a prediction. So I think we're being very clever on that one. But we'll need to wrap up there, guys. We've rambled on for far too much on this wonderful Easter Sunday. So just need to thank my guests for coming on. Dougie, thanks for coming on. Been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, good to be back on, Craig. Cheers for having me.
Ross, same for yourself, mate. Been great to have you on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Not a problem at all, guys. We'll be back next Friday for that Old Firm preview. It's going to be Brian Archer and Stuart. We're on that. All that's left to do now is thank you guys at home for watching, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye for now.